I'm going to talk about my faith in God. Is it a religion I created with my hand, with my emotions, with my feelings? Can religion be recreated by children called the invisible God? So I had to do this video as people who are from a Christian community are questioning, why am I listening to Satanists or former antichrists? And that is because I'm trying to educate myself what the secularist world believes, what they're judging me on, what their foundation is, and I've got my answers today. Is the 18th of August 2024. My name is was Maria. It's now Mima, also known as Mims or Mima. So again, their main Jezebel spirit is recreated from the holy books, which is the Old Testament, and that is very old, thousands of years old, the Torah, and also less ancient, 2,000 years old, in the New Testament compared to the Old Testament, which is about 5,000 to 7,000 years old, from the beginning of time. And so this is why the Bible is so important, because it is the oldest book in the world, and it is preserved and protected because it's a document. And so this documentary is looking at particularly the accusation of making white humans, or the white race, making Christianity, because the Bible originates from the Jews, and that's a lie, because the Bible was also next to their cousins. The Jews have cousins that are Muslims, and they're all Arabs, and so the Quran is copied from the Bible. Not all of it, but some of it. And so I would never change my Christian faith, and I will not tolerate people disregarding or disrespecting my Christian faith, accusing me of my Christian faith being a mental illness, or accusing my Christian faith of being created. So if I look at the percentage of 10 fingers, 10%, what I have created would be one finger compared to all the 9 fingers. So my Christian faith as a Christian woman is having faith in Jesus in a biblical, strict way. However, I'm not too stern, or not too somber or solemn, because God clearly says in the Old Testament, God hates those that are too serious and that take themselves too serious, and combining their guilt mixed up with being too serious, that makes God very uncomfortable, and it's a very unpleasant for God the Creator. And it's also impossible to satisfy God the Creator, who I don't believe is a tyrant. I don't believe that Jesus Christ is a tyrant. I don't believe that Jesus Christ had a mental illness. And I don't believe that Jesus Christ was a narcissist, a sociopath, a psychopath, or any other demonic mental label. And the reason for that is that I myself had asked the question in my consultation, God, why are you treating me like an enemy? Why are you treating me like a tyrant? And so I got my response. I am treating you like an enemy because you treated me like an enemy, because you married an atheist. I'm treating you like an enemy because you did not take me seriously enough. You insulted me, and I handed you over to the enemy. So God specifically told me this as I was reading the Bible, and as I was randomly going through the Bible, God showed me exactly. And so people will say, oh, that's mirroring. That's a coincidence. It's a mirror. It is Satan playing with your mind. And I'm saying, no, God is not Satan. And so they've also done that in the media, to say in the social media, to say that Satan, the fallen rebel angel, is God and God is the devil. So it's not a mirror, and I was troubled by that emotionally. It left me similar to a hangover. When I've never been drunk with alcohol, never in my life, but I have seen people what they're like when they are drunk. Particularly my uncle, my mother's brother. He used to suffer. Two of them. One was in Poland, and the other one was in former Yugoslavia. And so, two of the brothers had suffered and died from alcohol abuse. So it's similar to a hangover, where you feel like a hangman, the game Hangman. You feel emotionally distable. You feel emotionally cut off, as if you're not allowed to feel emotions, totally numb. And you can't get rid of that horrible sinking feeling. You have to take the alcohol drink to remove the horrible sinking feeling. It's, or in other words, a broken heart. If you don't want to call it a broken heart, you could call it trauma. If you don't want to call it trauma, you can call it shock, being as a type of shell shock. And so many men who are shell shocked or rejected or denied to have emotions, big men don't cry. Again, it's a fashion to say big men don't cry, big men don't cry. And the more he has that anger issue, where he cannot do anger management and where he cannot cry, it makes him less of a human. So he wants to be stunned by alcohol, or stunned by an insect, or stunned by doing excessive amount of testosterone, adding to his masculinity, adding to his muscle, adding to his workload. And so adding to sexaholism, alcoholism, and also adding this macho type to stun him from his emotions. All of this does not help. It makes him mentally sick. And it's a horrible feeling. I had this horrible hanging feeling. It was a emptying feeling. You're not allowed to have an emotion about that question. And the more I had it, the more I was desperate to have the answer. God, no, you're not only a mirror to me, you're more than a mirror. And again, God answered me both in the New Testament, that sometimes we see Jesus Christ as dim and blurred, and it's all foggy and horrible. You can't see, you can't recognize Jesus. He's all blurred, or as a type of a fog. And but we will no longer see him dimly. We will no longer have code language or a signal or symbolic language. No longer, no more. When you come to have a personal relationship with Jesus, and bring him into your reality now, so that he's relevant today. And so that's what I have. That was a treasure that was given to me in response, and I was just so amazed, awestruck. God, you're so awesome that you've answered me, that I will no longer have to see you dimly. I see you like crystal clearly. I see you clearly, and you're no longer going to be distant from me, because I will seek your face, and I will seek your presence, and I will not give up. In every situation, the more I seek you, the more you become clear. As the lens is blurred here, I could clear it with removing the Vaseline pot, but I've decided not to remove the Vaseline. I just want to protect my image on social media, internet. And so that was in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, why, again, repeating the same question, God, my God, oh my God. And Jesus also cried, why did you forsake me on the cross? And so the Old Testament, I was seeking and searching. Is it true? Are you just a mirror for me? Are you just answering my own emotions? Huh? And I got so angry and agitated. And God answered me straight away. God never failed to answer me. And it was so amazing. No, I'm not a figment of your imagination. And no, I'm not a mirror of your emotions. I am having a relationship with you. And I said, all right then, God, if you think you're so clever, of course God is, how dare I speak to God like that? I said, I will not go to you in a book. I will not go to you in a church. I will not go to you in any religious public place. I will go to you at any hour or any second of the day, regardless of who I'm with, where I'm at, and show yourself to me. And then God did answer me again. I remember being out late one night with my daughter on a coach trip with the school, and when concert had finished, suitable for children, we were told to just stand outside and wait for everybody to gather together to return into the coach and take the journey back home. And it was very late. It was past midnight. And there was me standing as an example of God being with me, and I heard a vocal voice. I'm not an alcoholic. If I drink alcohol, which would be red or white wine, I always dilute it with water. And so it's a very personal thing. And then God spoke to me in a vocal voice, as if standing next to me, and said, "Don't move." Man's voice, "Don't move." If it wasn't telepathic, heaven sending me a message like a telephone from heaven to earth, if it wasn't Jesus himself talking to me, because Jesus is in heaven, it could have been an angel that Jesus had sent to me. And I found out there was a horrible accident, some violence going on, and something going on with an accident. And because I obeyed that voice to stay where I was waiting, and we eventually did assemble and return back, and we were safe, everything was safe. So I had no doubt and that God was with me from that moment on, and I heard a vocal voice, and I wasn't going through a schizophrenic mental breakdown. Hearing voices. No, it was a one-off, very clear voice, as it was in a danger, which is very rare. I've never heard anything since, because I hadn't been in danger since. There was also a miracle that has happened to me. So I believe that there is a horrible murderous spirit also that is constantly having this competition and challenge, who is Antichrist, compared to those who are for Christ Jesus and God. We are the opposite of them as a people, as a whole, in the sense that we want to complete, we want to care for one another. We don't want to compete and challenge all the time. We want to complete what God wants us to finish, and to care for one another without putting money first. And so that's how we are differentiated from those who are godless or no people, because they're not a people. They are either influenced by demons or some other condemning thing. So returning to the danger aspect of things, another instance was not God talking to me, but me talking to God, where I could have been killed in a road traffic accident. My daughter was 8 years old. No. She was 6 or 7 years old. I was pushing her. No, she must have been younger than that. I was pushing her in a pram and going across the road and going forward. The light suddenly changed, and it wasn't on red. It was on green, and I could see on this huge big road many lanes. There was about 5 lanes of all these cars coming towards me, and I said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And I was pushing the pushchair thinking I was going to die there and then. We were going to be hit by a car. And I was right in the middle of the road, going as fast as I could, seeing all these vehicles, even vans and lorries and buses and all types of cars approaching. Only me in the middle of the road. There was no one else. And I just had this instinct, thinking, oh, we're gonna die. Oh no, oh my God. I couldn't say oops. It's not an oops. It's worse than an oops. So I said, oh my good God, oh my good God, oh my good God, good God, good God, good God, help, help, help. And so a miracle happened in the time and place and the fact of the distance. God did something. Could God extend the road? Could God stop time? Could God influence the driver to slow down so much? Could God influence the engine of all those cars approaching us, and the pedal of them pressing onto the pedal, acceleration? And I mean, I have been driving a car when I was very young, could never afford to finish it, the driving license. And so I thought me and my daughter were going to die. But I kept on holding on to my faith in God, not let go, that whatever happens, whether I live or die, God is with us. And a miracle happened that it's not murder, but we were not killed. So more traffic accidents happen where people have premature death. However, when you have pandemic diseases and famines and food shortages, medicine shortages, abuse and murder, that happens more. There's more casualties. There's this mortality rate, that more people are dying in their statistic compared to this road traffic accidents. That happens less often. So that type, I was, again, I had no doubt that God was with me, regardless of what time, in evening, morning, regardless of what season. It didn't have to be Easter for God to listen to me. It didn't have to be Christmas for God to listen to me. And so God gave me comfort. Now, I have to ask this question for all these Satanists who are accusing me and saying that because I had a very bad childhood, I made an imaginary friend. That was no imaginative experience. And so they've also accused Jesus Christ of madness for the way he spoke to people which could sound arrogant, but it wasn't arrogant, it was authoritative. So Jesus Christ, as the Son of the living God, who created everything and everyone, has the right to speak and to behave exactly the way he did, as a royal, as a King of Kings, the Prince of Peace, the Prince of Light, not the Prince of Darkness. It is the devil, the enemy, who was the Prince of Darkness, that said to Jesus, you have no right to speak like that, you're not a qualified priest, or you're not a qualified this and that, you're only a son of a carpenter boy, young man, or you're only an uneducated, unemployed individual, you're not going to speak like that. And so this is how they rebuked him and ruined his reputation in the past time until today's date. And so some people will shrug their shoulders like this and say, oh, so what? Never mind. Don't go telling us about that, because you should put your hope in your self-sufficiency and expertise and your level of intelligence through education. That's what you should put your hope in. And money and being having a fortune and fame, this is where your hope must go. And so this is what the secularists are saying. And something else I'm going to add to that, because there's Holy Spirit witness, and the devil is also showing me what the secularists are saying. So I have both the devil and God who are showing me evidently what makes the society tick when it comes to where they put their hope in, and what do they put their hope in, compared to God's people who have their hope in completing God's mission and fulfilling the prophecies. And our hope is in the ability to have clear thinking, the ability to look at miracles and to investigate murders and to investigate why so many people are dying, why so many societies are being broken down and destroyed. And the reason is whoring. Adulterers destroy civilization. Shall I repeat that? No, I don't think I will. And so the Bible also says that adulteresses is the same as murderesses, because they don't want civility. They don't want anything civilized. They don't want democracy, true democracy. And so it becomes a godless nation. Since it's a godless nation, they're the ones the same as wild animals as a result, not even domesticated animals as a result. So this is what we have today, and it has to be corrected. And I'm responsible to correct that, to share my mind, share my public status, and what religion and Christianity mean to me personally. Who is a doctor God, and also a God of who also shows me being a detective specifically about someone. So it's far more than imaginary friend, far more than a psychic ability with a crystal ball, far more than that. It's very personal, and my determination to show the difference, to differentiate myself as a Christian woman, devout woman, compared to other women who only want challenge, they only want competition, and they only want to put their hopes in things that are opposite for what I put my hope in, right? And so, but there are some similarities of non-Christian women compared to Christian women. Of course, that is rearing our children. We will not procrastinate, that's exactly, but to reproduce. So there are similarities again, but in a different sense. And so moving on further, where this is been revealed to me through the demonic doctor and demonic detective. So what are they telling me? And their presence. So I have both presence, the secularist and the non-secularist, which makes me brave. Sometimes bravery is dumb. So there are many, many different realities and risk-taking that they call something else. That means trial and error. But they're allowed to experiment, they're allowed to invent, but it's still imagination. It's still trial and error. So they've promoted their trial and error through imagination to see if it works or not. Try this idea, try that idea. But when it comes to Christianity and our doctors, our education, our parenting skills, we're not allowed. We're not allowed to invent. We're not allowed to inspire. We're not allowed to use our imagination to invent, use our imagination to inspire, use our imagination to instruct, use our imagination to try this, try that until you make it work. Because we're persecuted Christians, we're going through a prison. And so the devil wants us to go into prison because we have publicly proclaimed that we're persecuted Christians. So it's okay for them to put spice on the woman's boobs, or they can put beautiful chocolate sprinklers and different food on the woman's boob, and use their imagination to have sexual foreplay and other sexual activities with sex using their imagination. They can do it because they're Satanists and non-Christians and non-religious. Compared to the religious, we're not allowed to do it because that's idol worship. Whoa, we can't do it, which is a load of nonsense, because then you will be called a little girl or a little boy having sex, and you're not grown up enough because you can't have sex with food, you can't sprinkle something on the woman's boob or sprinkle something on the man's penis, you can't have a sense of humour. You can't operate on somebody in a hospital that isn't licensed in an emergency situation, doing an emergency to feed somebody with a syringe, or in an emergency to feed somebody with medical tubes in an emergency situation. You would be accused by Satanists to say, oh, you're not qualified. By Satanists, they would say, oh, you're not allowed because you may infect that person, giving them unsterilized tubes and unsterilized syringes. So they would always find something negative to criticize you. And they would even steal the criticism of the saints to claim it for themselves as their own. That's how pathetic they are. It must be their way or no way. And so I was thinking about this to say, look at the propaganda, listen to what they're doing to promote perversion and to make all types of accusations to say that my Jesus is a madman and that he's not allowed to speak with authority. He sounds like a grandiose, arrogant narcissist, and he is some type of an individual that is seeking to be the center of attention. And of course he is, because he knew that he hadn't had long to live, that his life was going to be cut short. That's what he was living for ever since he was 12 years old. He knew that God told him the purpose of his life was to save the human race. And so he was studying the scripture. He went to the synagogues and religious places in the public to speak to the elders, to study the ancient scriptures, because he was different, and God was with him since he was very young. With this immaculate birth, they have accused Jesus, his mother, of being an adulteress, and of how could she be pregnant without having sex with a man, and so I'm not deaf. But if I'm listening to insults and too much noise pollution, I'm going to wear earplugs. If I have to listen to a Satanist, I would have to wear earplugs. However, I've removed my earplugs because I want to hear exactly what they're saying to accuse me, and what they're doing to ambush me with all types of nasty figment of their imagination. So in this present time and past times, it's very similar. So evidently, I am not asking anyone to wait for me, or asking anyone for an explanation, or asking anyone for me to justify myself. I'm not doing that. I'm doing this because this tradition, which is what the bad angel already knows, of what we call the old people, the elders, who are disrespecting God and Jesus Christ, versus the elders who are there to respect and honor God with Jesus Christ. So those that do kidnapping, for example, particularly from Christian homes and from devout Christian single women who have been tortured or paralyzed, unable to go to a church because of being physically frail, this is what I'm talking about. The breaking of God's 10 Commandments, the willfully breaking God's rules when it comes to abortion after 2 weeks. And then other Christians would argue with me and say that you're wonderfully and fearfully made from the time of conception, from the moment the sperm fertilizes the egg, it's a baby. I don't agree with that, because it's still developing its nerves and its muscles, and it's not a proper human until about 2 weeks, I believe, 2 weeks, because then it has more, develop the five senses. It's starting to, and before 2 weeks, it's not a baby. It's a blob. And so when it comes to these abortionists, they're saying it's my body. I choose what to do. Then abstain from sex, but they don't want to abstain from sex, so that's a problem. They become impregnated, and then they do child abuse. Now, I wanted my baby, and I never regretted having my baby, even though my husband was told that he was impotent, even though he was beating up Black and Blue emotionally and physically for accusing me of having an affair, which I never did. But his other wives did have affairs, so he assumed I was the same as his other wives. And so I was no one special to him. I was outside his framework, spiritually and physically, of being someone special, someone important, or something to look forward to, which was our baby. And he would give a feeble explanation that the baby is not really important. It's him that's more important, which you have a misogynist man, and you have a man that would have up to 12,000 to a number that cannot be counted of followers who would support him to today's date, even unto him who is now a dead man. He died natural causes, and he did self-suicide and awful things. So whenever he met me, to him it was always the same. It was never unique. It was never different. So I'm the same as his ex-wives. Even if I have a different dress on, it's the same old dress, it's the same old face, it's the same old voice. And so to him, I was always the same. And so he was the one who was a madman. Whereas when you listen to Jesus and the example of what a holy man is, every day is a new beginning, every day is a new day, every hope is given to through Jesus to God, taking care of us, and to bring us back where we belong if we go astray, or if we're lost, or we feel frustrated with something. And so that's how God helps and heals, to clear our head when the head is foggy. And also, dubiously, when you're suspicious about someone and you cannot trust someone, or you feel afraid and you're glancing behind you to see who's following you, we all need a saviour. We all need Jesus Christ. So Jesus had that confidence about him, which means that he wasn't mentally ill. Jesus was not overconfident. He could be humbled he was humbled. He's the most humble man, because he died for my sin and your sin, and he humbled himself. He was the boss of all the angels, and then he went down lower than the angels, so he was more important than the angels, and then he went even lower than the angels in heaven. He became human, and so they will call Jesus an alien. So yes, I do believe that it was a type of an alien, because God, the Creator, is greater in God's IQ. God's thoughts are higher than our thoughts, greater IQ, greater emotion. God can be a giant, God could be a microscopic creature, God could be invisible, God could be visible, because God is to be feared, the most terrible one, the most feared, and to be afraid of God could be the most beautiful or the most terrible one. And so God is so much. And so that's why I'm never empty, and he's never empty-handed through Christ, overflowing, so full, so vast, so huge. And so that's the whole point, that Jesus died. He minimized himself. He was less than the angels, he was less than God, to become a human, so in order to save the human race and the creation, all the animals are under his authority. And so the rebel angel doesn't like that, because the devil and the devil's work representatives want to have, through the government also, to have all the animals, all the plants, all the creation, all the human race to be subjected to their authority as the humans. And so that's the amazing thing, that we can rely on God to keep our promises, because when God says, see you later, I'll be back soon, he really does. Whereas with humans, they cannot keep their promises, and too many are unfaithful and unfair. And would treat you the same as Mr. Leo and the lion. Have you for dinner? I'll come round for dinner tonight. But as soon as they find out you have no money in the bank, you're nobody special because you're not a professor, they either poop on you, totally dishonour you, treat you like dirt, or they would eat you up as a lion, as a Leo's dinner. Oh, so, yep, I'm a bit of bacon, I'm a bit of a sausage, I'm a bit of an egg, I'm a bit of beans and hash browns on toast, marmite. So, to them, as long as their stomachs are filled, God says again in the Bible, it is better for you to lose your head and be beheaded and executed than for you to love food and love your stomach, love money and love your bank more than the Creator God. And so they do know who God is, they do believe in God, but they don't want to be subjected to God's authority or to have a relationship with God, because they're too busy and they've made themselves into gods. Which is very similar to gangsters and other individuals. And so you have the murderous cat disorder, or moggies, the cat disorder, which is the North personality disorder. No matter how sweet you are or how polite you are, they have this horrible murderous spirit to make you reluctant or hesitant to come any closer. Don't come any closer. Because they have a murderous or invasive spirit. Which I believe is the same thing. You invade somebody's privacy, you're not respecting that person, and at any push of a button, which is the new technologies, that is the new religion. And it's only the beginning of the end. It's only just started of all types of snake rattling to destroy the human race future. So they're saying you should be ashamed of your relatives, you should be ashamed of your body because someone's spying on your nakedness, or having a shower or a bath, or going on the toilet. And so I assume that started in 2008, but it must be much older than that, these technologies. So the one that is actually warned the human race was Vladimir Putin of Russia. He warned us and said that new technologies are utterly evil. But actually, if we check the technology, it can be used for good. To catch a murderer, to catch someone who is breaking the law. But it could be used for good or evil. So it becomes actually more sinister and very bad when it depends who's using it or how it's being used. And realize it's very tricky when it comes to surveillance and cameras, freedoms of speech, freedom of religion, and other freedoms, to say that if we're going to have thoughtfulness, it has to somehow be connected to politics. If it's not connected to politics, you shouldn't really have freedom of speech, and you shouldn't really have freedom of religion, because it's not connected to politics, and I find that very disturbing. And I have had sleepless nights as a result of having nightmares, not because I'm worried. Worry is a sin, not because I don't have faith in God, but because of thinking that it could be that I'm the luckiest girl to be alive to I've actually had said hello to Putin, and I think he said hello back to me because he knew where I came from, that I was from former Yugoslavia. And I used to follow him, but I was not expecting any communication. I was not expected to have any symbols, any signs, any inclination to be part of a cult or be part of a government which is foreign. And I used to subscribe to his channel before the war in Ukraine, and then I did pray for people and said, well, there's no certain formula or plan to stop the war because of disinformation against Russia and or Ukraine, and propaganda, so therefore I don't want to get involved. I have enough propaganda and this perception of me being probably dangerous, demonized, dehumanized, and all the negative D's in the dictionary, which is witchcraft. And so that makes many women very vulnerable, extremely vulnerable to using social media, how I had started using it. Because then it gives them the automatic right to look up my home address and my local street, and maybe rather than helping me with CCTV, it could be harming me because of who I'm affiliated or who I'm subscribed to or not subscribed to on my YouTube channel. And I had no idea that this is happening. How is this possible? How is this not illegal? That I could disappear from the street and the CCTV would not see anything. It would be instructed to switch it off so that a crime can take place. And I try to tell myself there's nothing to be afraid of. It's okay. God is looking after me. God is in presence in my midst, in my life-death situation. Every time I eat my breakfast, lunch, or any other meal, I like to pray. But when I look at the news, I am horrified to realize what a dangerous and more volatile, more violent our streets are becoming. It's becoming more and more of a type of a Halloween, where children are killing each other, children are having underage sex, families are having incest sex, so many are taking drugs, men are losing their sense of identity, babies are treated like blobs after 2 weeks of pregnancy and having abortions, dark silence, isolation, being muffled so they don't listen to my voice, the sound of my voice, any inclination to confidence of someone who is poor, disabled, a single parent, isolated in a place where it's like a no man's land. And that's how I feel annoyed by it for nearly all my life. Sort of living in a wasp's nest. And it's you have to pay for DIY services, you have to pay for all these services, and if you get them free, even from a church or any religious place, if they do something for free for you, they would want to demand sex, because they know that you come from a poor environment, or you're a single parent, or this is awful. They actually take the opportunity to attack for doing voluntary service. either by a charity or by a religious place. And so as a result, there's less trust for everybody. And this is what Satan is showing me. So the bad angel can disguise itself as an angel of light. It can show me or copy the mood, the atmosphere, and what the reality is, how people feel, how people are connected or not connected or disconnected. And so the human is now becoming some type of a ghostly figure or a ghost town because of too much surveillance, too much incrimination, too many people or even couples that have lost their libido and they don't want to have sex because they're afraid of pregnancy, and there's too much child abuse where there's no rescue for the children, and yet the very ones who are helped and healed and who have a holy family, as in my life it was a holy family, because I didn't indoctrinate my daughter with any religion, and it wasn't my imagination, it was her imagination. She was drawing pictures from the Bible. She was singing because she wanted to sing. She was dancing because she wanted to dance, not because I demanded it or dictated it or directed her to do it. No. It was natural. She saw me reading, she saw me singing, she saw me dancing. So, of course, children do mimic their parents in a loving way, just like I mimic Jesus or I mimic God because I'm in love with Jesus, I'm in love with God. And I believe that this is how God comes in my personal and private life and my public life. Because I was a nobody and God made me into a somebody. I felt I had no car, I had no home that I can call my own, I had no children I could call my own. Everything was destroyed into nothingness. And then God made me feel like I was someone and someone special because He was the one who helped me get out of my bed and nurse myself back to health, because He was the one who embraced me with a hug and gave me angels to give me kisses on the cheek. And I even took a picture of an angel giving me a kiss on the cheek. He was the one who touched me through the angels touching me. He was the one who made me laugh. He was the one who made me loved. And so this is how I'm special. I'm witnessing to God and God witnessing to me that He is with me, even though I had no one and nothing. He made me a someone, even to the point of changing my name, what was Maria, to Mima, because of being rejected and outcast by my own relatives, who wouldn't believe me and still don't believe me, that everything that has been loomed out of my life or phased out of my life as a type of a murky, frost of confusion or air of confusion, that was unwrapped. It was unraveled, because they didn't want me to be a mysterious girl. And this is what is evil about them, because I couldn't have my own privacy. So I want to wrap it back up. I want to be able to find things that I can say, this is mine. It's not about you. It's about Jesus in my life, and it's about me. And this is how I've gone against their mental illness, to say, why should your mental illness be my mental illness? Why should your empty speculation be a fact? Why should your over-analysis be my analysis? Because my analysis is not your analysis. And so that's my argument, to say that when I'm speaking, it's not speaking in an empty space. If no one wants to listen to me outside on public internet, I have a copy of this video so I can find people, friends and family that do want to listen to this video when they ask me, why are you a Christian? And why do you believe that Jesus was not mentally ill? Why do you believe that Jesus was a God? Well, He did miracles that nobody else could do, miracles, not even today. The same miracles that He did. But Jesus even said that humans will do even greater miracles than Jesus did, in the aspect of saving souls out of hell and fulfilling God's promises. as Jesus proclaimed, I'm here to set the captives free who have injustice. I'm here to help the brokenhearted. I'm here to feed the hungry. I'm here to give you strength to the weak, people who are fragile. And so that's exactly the fulfillment of God's miracles, who are doing even greater miracles than Jesus had actually said in public there, that after he has died and been buried and resurrected and left earth to go to heaven, in his old spiritual body and his new physical body. He's the only prophet that has a new body. He left. He had more than 500 encounters of people seeing him after the dead. And he said not a whole library of books could be big enough to fit all the books that hasn't been written about Jesus. He definitely says more than 500 people have seen him and had encounters with him, not as a ghost, as someone eating food. A ghost does not eat food, it will go through them after he resurrected from the dead. And then others would accuse Jesus of not ever dying, and it was all created. This religion was created to make the Jews the center of attention. That's also false, because many Jews don't accept Jesus Christ. That's false. And the documents were anti-Jesus Christ. The documents of the Jews had written against Jesus Christ and said that they don't believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. They don't believe that Jesus Christ resurrected from the dead, even though there's historical and agricultural evidence that Jesus did resurrect from the dead. And so literally we could hear his ancestors, and even find the people that could be related to Mary and Joseph. We could literally hear their voice, and even to the point of finding other documents that prove that Jesus was crucified, and many people wanted to hide the fact he resurrected from the dead. It wasn't a body being snatched out or stolen as tomb raiders. No, he was miraculously healed, and he treated those who were fear-mongering and warmongering around his death as some type of pest that he could squish. He could even step on scorpions and snakes and not be afraid of them who were doing fear-mongering and warmongering. And the angel came and sat during the message, sat on the tomb stone, a big huge round rock, and he said, "You're out. Every muscle of your body is not going to hurt anymore. You're not going to be frozen in time anymore. You're not going to feel darkness anymore. You're not going to feel the smell of death anymore." All of that. The angels came with grinning faces, smiling faces, holy Cheshire cats. Out of the grave Jesus came. He said his best instructions and said his goodbye to all his friends, and then he left. So the devil knows that. The devil and devil's lot were terrified of that. How much more should God's people share their testimony? Much more. So in the Bible here, I have specifically this thing against them in the Bible. It's in Deuteronomy chapter 12 at the last bit. The verdict goes, God, Yah, had annihilated the nations confronting them. When you have dispossessed them and made your home in their country, beware of being entrapped by them, and do not copy them, for they have been destroyed by you. So to make a way for you, to give you an opportunity to rebuke them of their gods. I am going to do the same things too. This is God speaking. This is not the way to treat God. Because if you're going to honour your God with a small g, who has done nothing for you, it is disgusting and detestable, what God hates. In honour of your gods with a small g, one of those gods with a small g is burning your own children and your daughters as sacrifices, which is modern day abortion. So they would have casual sex and they would say, oh, it doesn't matter because I had the morning after pill. And so that is exactly what they're doing with their gods today. So that they say, well, it's perfectly acceptable to be unemotional without calling them a sociopath and a psychopath or schizophrenic. They would label these and say, well, they have a mental health label, so it's okay to normalize the fact that they're unemotional and they don't have a natural affection towards their children. Now, I don't have natural affection towards my child because she's cruel, calculated, crafty, she's rejected me, she's dishonoured me, and so there's no natural affection. She's disowned me and she's done evil. And so, therefore, I haven't seen her for 7 years. She's made that decision, and also she has decided to listen to everybody else but me. And so, in that case, I'm not going to be naturally affectionate towards her. I would want to have my personal body space. However, I haven't lost my power. I kept my power because I have one contact, and her name is Anne. To try and find her, so I don't lose her entirely. I don't know where she is. She's hidden her address. I don't know where she is, and I'm very worried because she's still a child. She's not a fully grown adult until she's 25. When she's 25, she's then a fully grown adult. She's still growing. Her brain is still growing. So I would not want to embrace her. I would not want to treat her as as a close friend or to have any type of intimacy or insight, because she won't listen to me. She's a rebellious teenager. She's all flying career woman. She wants to slander her mum. She wants to spit at me. She wants to do everything that my bullies have done. She's on my bullies camp. And maybe I could hopefully try and divert her from the devil in ways that is unknown to me, because God works in mysterious ways. I haven't lost my power. I've kept in contact so that she knows I'm still interested. I'm still there, available. But I'm not going to be available there forever. There could be a day when she turns 25, I decide to pack my suitcases and she won't be able to find me then. So I'm the difference of what my parents ever did to me. They were never available. They never gave me emotional support. They never gave me financial support. They never gave me a roof over my head. They've abandoned me like a baby in a basket and handed me over to the government or to the rubbish bins or to those that don't care about me. So that's the curse of destruction in my life through a generational condemnation of my relatives who hated each other. My mum was a virgin, my dad was a virgin, and they lost their virginity at the same time and made me. She then had me as a breech baby, like this. My head was not like that. It wouldn't come out of her vagina, so she had to cut. She was cut by me. She hated me. She tortured me. She didn't want a baby, but she wanted a baby boy, not a baby girl. And so this is the bad tradition of Satan and the bad rebel angel. It's ferocious. It's ferocity. It's so much evil that she has done. But God has a way where there is no way. I do believe that very firmly. And I'd just like to witness for that. He does not make me like a child to believe, because the devil also believes, and the devil is not a child. The devil is a superior angel that has been around with supremacy and been very close and intimate to God. before the world was even created. The closest. Now, some have made this philosophy to say those of us who are closest to us hurt us the most, which is another rubbish saying. Also, those who have been abused will become abusers, is another rubbish saying, because they've made a mistake and they won't admit to the fact that they've made a mistake. Not all people or children who are abused become abusers. Not all of us who are very close and intimate and have a very close relationship with someone else, those who are closest to us hurt us the most. Not necessarily. It depends who it is. Even if it's the case of half of the population. If it's not half of the population, it could be 10 humans. It could be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did I say that right? So it depends how many. It could be one person in a city or one person in a town. That is the only one that is honest. Could be 2 people. That is the only one who would be the minority. But that could be changed if the government and bad leaders are changed, so that we could be the new majority. So to say that it's more than 50% of the population of the fact in the statistics that because you were abused, you're not going to become an abuser. So that's changeable. It depends all on the leaders and who the leaders are, who the philosophers are, who the doctors are. Is it Dr. God who is influencing, or is it Dr. the Devil? Is it a detective or police for the devil, or is it the detective and police for God, which do a similar thing to being a detective? So, this is how I close my video, to say, from our firstborn children, it's a shame that these unclean demon spirits will treat children the same as today. We have the logo of the reindeer. I don't know why they have chosen that, but it's the reindeer or gazelle that it says that they have chosen this logo for the children that are taken into care or foster care or any other thing. I'm making a lot of noises out there. So, passing over this evil and wickedness, it says, why did you contact somebody, they asked me again, that you knew was an abuser, that you stopped contact for 2 years and a half? Why did you contact that abuser again? And that's because I wanted to see if they had been humbled and if they would care. But it showed that they never cared, because it was only sexual. So anyone who gives love, anyone, whether it's a relationship between your spouse or a relationship between a mother and the parent type of love, if it's only sexual and there's no agape love, it becomes perverted. So the foreigner, the stranger in the town, someone who is a single person in the town, someone who has had many, who's a widower or widower. So if you have this type of perversity when it's only sexual, it then becomes a bad judge. It becomes everything about abuse. Everything about that they do, even their clothing, their singing, their dancing, their writing, even their touch, everything about them is abusive. Because they don't have the basic agape love or platonic love. This is why we have even more homicide, more crimes in the town, because religious studies is a formal study. We need more than formal studies. We need God as a witness. I need God as a witness. You need God as a witness. And that to limit what type of retaliation there is. So they're too ready to bring out a gun or a weapon against you if you don't agree with them. If I don't agree with someone, it just means I want my personal space. And I don't want you to follow me, and I don't want to follow you. I just want you to leave me alone. That's my human right and my freedom to do so. But they, on the other hand, have realised this change, so they would want to plot my destruction betraying me. So this has been unidentified as murder, when in fact it is someone being taken into war because of my destroying my birthright, my daughter's birthright and my birthright, is someone who is very rebellious and rude and wicked. And like I say again, adultery is the same as murder, or sickness and diarrhea, of slow and painful death. So I do keep myself hygienic. Now I'm going to remove the blur and show how hygienic I am. So here's the evidence of me being hygienic. Pause and closing the video. My bathroom. I'm drying they're dried, clean floor and everything, clean sink. So yeah, this is my bathroom, all dried and clean. Yep. Yeah, that's me in the mirror there.